Why, hello everybody, Spencer here, also known as ScreenSpeak, and in today's video, this is a special video to you guys, and I'm here with a brand new ranking video of all three Back to the Future movies. This is a Back to the Future trilogy ranking. I wanted to share my thoughts. I've already talked about them on my franchise ranking, which I kind of want to do again because once I kind of talk about these classic movies, because I love movies so much, and I want to talk about these classic movies, and I kind of want to redo my franchise ranking. But today I wanted to share with you my ranking of all three Back to the Future films because I feel like they're just so great, all of them. And I feel like this is one that most people aren't going to agree with, but one that I just had to share my thoughts on. So without further ado, let's discuss. Alright, so going right into things here, we got Back to the Future Part 3. And this is one that, when I watched it the first time, again, I watched the Back to the Future. I think I watched Back to the Future 1 with both my parents. I can't remember vividly that memory. But then I watched Back to the Future Part 2 with my dad. I think I watched the first one with both my parents, because then the first one ends, and my mom was like, oh, this one's great, I love the ending. Roads, we don't need roads. And then the second one, I watched with my dad, and then the third one I watched with my dad, and I was like, this one's sick. It's a Western. And then by the time I finished it, I went, don't know how I feel about that. It's a great film. Like, don't get me wrong. I just took a class, had a Western topic of my movies class, and I like Westerns. I mean, they're fine. I like Rango. The Lone Ranger was one that I'm trying to get into. It's not a good movie by any standards, but it's like the Lone Ranger is trying to tell that Western tale. This is a time travel Western movie, and I think it really works in that asset. But I think another thing, like, it's not a bad film. I think the depiction of I think it really works. Don't get me wrong. I love the finale with the train sequence, the railroad, the locomotive, going and pushing the DeLorean, and the soundtrack, the score works in that moment. It really, really does. But there's something about the, film itself structurally. I love the relationship between Clara and Doc Brown. I like that we have Buford Mad Dog Tannen, but that's another thing. The villain works, but it feels so abrupt and just, okay, we gotta take down the villain and we gotta go on the train. It just doesn't satisfy me enough, whereas the other two films have more villainous stuff going on. So I'll get to that later, but I like the Western feel. I like the relationship between Clara and Doc Brown. I like that there's the relationship between Marty and, seeing his ancestors, which they always do in all three films, but it's nice. I enjoy the watch of it for, when I was watching it with my dad the first time. I enjoy, rewatching, the train sequence on YouTube and certain, the takedown between, hey, McFly, between Buford Mad Dog Tannen and Marty McFly, but, and him falling in the manure and all that stuff is classic Back to the Future stuff. But beyond that, this isn't the one that I'm grabbing myself every time. But besides the train sequence, the train sequence is always good. I always need a train sequence in movies, but besides that, it's not the first Back to the Future film I'm going to watch. Alright, controversial take. Number 2 is the original Back to the Future. And I know what you guys are saying. What? I know. It's not that I think this film is bad. Hey, it's right there in the middle. It's fine. It's always a crapshoot for me. When it comes to original, I love the second Indiana Jones. Spoiler alert. Probably, I might talk about Indiana Jones films soon. I don't know. But I'm going to have to think about that ranking a little bit more. But this one, I have solidified that Back to the Future 1 is at second place for me. Like I said, it doesn't mean it's bad, but there's things that the sequel does for me, to really elevate this movie in particular. And I feel like that's what some sequels do. Lego Movie 2 did that for me. Sean Chandler certainly thought so. Hot damn. I didn't expect to get that conversation going. But anyway, so another story for another day. I just, after this one, or like part one and part two, really feel like they go together really nicely, like into one another. So does part three, but I feel like part three, since it's a Western, it just feels like a complete departure. I feel like when they take off from number one and into number two, that seamless transition works so nicely, and I love it a lot. But this one, it's not bad. But the classic, trying to get his parents to fall back in love, and obviously the whole Darth Vader scene is, I'm a extraterrestrial from the planet Vulcan. My name is Darth Vader. Great scene. I love it a lot. It's a quotable movie by many standards, but it's something about it. I mean, the skateboard scenes we watch, well, it's so rewatchable with the George McFly. You're George McFly. Yeah, who are you? All that stuff works for me. Don't get me wrong. It's quotable. Love the Pepsi tab scene. I mean, like I just said, that was the same scene. All of it works. And you're being introduced to these characters, but I feel like it's a lot of these sequel things, like when you get to the second one, like, oh, you know who they are, there's more, it's elevated, all that sort of stuff. And I like the premise here. It's here. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I could be saying a lot more. Him falling, like, the whole, here's the thing, I'm gonna talk about this in the sequel, but him trying to find his parents, trying to get them to fall in love again, him going to the under the sea dance, and like in the picture, and like he's fading away, and then he's playing the guitar. Love the guitar sequence. And the finale, the going back to the future. All of that works. Love the lightning strike and him hooking up like Doc Brown's at the clock tower, all that sort of stuff, right? Great. But again, love this movie. It's right there in the middle of this trilogy, but we got a sequel. So what do I think about this sequel? Well, let's find out, shall we? And with that said, at number one in first place, we got Back to the Future Part 2. Now, what makes this, in my opinion, the best, my favorite, I shouldn't say the best, it's all subjective, my favorite Back to the Future. Well, here's the reason. We get the future, like I said, we get the seamless transition going, like roads, we don't need roads. And where are we going with that, right? Where is this cliffhanger going? When we see them going into the future, oh, it's so good. Even though it's not realistic to how the future was in 2015, or even nowadays, it's really cool sequence. And Griff with the hoverboard, oh, I love that sequence. And just taking the alternate timeline. The film might be a little confusing, but I still love the whole story with the sports almanac and all that sort of stuff. And then especially the sequence, oh my god, can we talk about when he's in the alternate timeline, he's like, I met another version of myself, or I met some guy was like, you're a distant relative of mine, I didn't see the resemblance. And then you see that happen when they're in the younger timeline and old Biff is talking to young Biff. I love that dialogue scene, and all of it works for me in particular. It's like perfect time travel. Like if you thought the first one was good, a time travel fan like me will love this film. And I haven't met anybody, like, I've talked to my friends, like, yeah, I like Back to the Future 2 more than Part 1. I've never gotten a direct answer like, oh yeah, I agree with you. I've just gotten like, okay, yeah, that's fair. But, to me, this is what solidifies time travel fun goodness. And especially, like I said before, with Mad Dog, with Back to the Future Part 3, the whole Mad Dog situation, I feel like Biff, in the first one, gives that more villainous side to him with the whole skateboard scene and he's tripping and being a bully to Marty McFly. And then Part 2, with Griff, this grandson, and old Biff, and then the whole timeline thing, and the alternate timeline with wacky Biff, that was going to kill him and off the cliff, and then you get young Biff again taking him down with the car, like, it's so good and villainous and tense that's what makes me love Part 2 so much more than Part 1. But again, the villainous side of things, like, again, that's what I didn't really like about Part 3. I liked Buford Mad Dog Cannon, but it didn't really feel as villainous. It just felt like, quick, showdown, boom, get to the train, go! And I'm like, oh, okay. And then number 3, that was number 3. Number 1 has more villainous stuff. Number 2 has all the right villainous stuff, or even more villainous stuff. So it might not be a perfect film by movie quality standard, but for me, it's what takes the cake in Back to the Future time travel elements. And with that said, guys, like I said, this isn't, for me, it's like, there's always a crapshoot, like, oh, I could go back between 1 and 2. But I feel like, to me, on this standard, I just had to get this out to you guys. Part 2 is better than part 1. So that's my ranking on all the Back to the Future films. Let me know what you think of the Back to the Future films. Do you agree with my take? Is this a personal hot take? I had to make this video for you guys. I had to share this. I did a poll, and some people were like, do it on a podcast, do it on a separate, so I did it on a separate video. Let me know what you think of the Back to the Future movies. Should they do a remake of like a younger generation, of a newer generation, like Spy Kids or something? I don't know. I mean, they're always making remakes and stuff. People hate it, but personally, I would be down for another Back to the Future. Just me. I'd like to see it over, you know, the What's Happened with Indiana Jones. I'd like to see this one do a remake. So let me know what you think of Back to the Future of the entire trilogy. Let me know what you think of my ranking. Don't forget to stay tuned for more rankings like these, more podcast episodes, videos in general. Leave a like, subscribe, follow me at Boba Fett Master. Links down below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me. Don't forget to keep calm, watch the stream. Peace out, everyone. Bye.